Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician, and this is another short discussion, a little bit of a tutorial here on the subject of thought of card magic. So this is magic where information is introduced by a spectator, or they're the only ones to know what they're thinking. Something is happening in their mind, nothing is written down anywhere, nothing is spoken out loud or picked out and then controlled in some way. But magic that really is kind of a hands-off, only in the head sort of thing. And also, we've been working with free agency and revelation. So we're not going to do so much of that on this one, but we are going to focus on that thought of card, thought of information kind of presentation. So the way this would work is you'd have a spectator. You'd need to have several spectators. It'd be better if you had maybe at least 3 or more, so you have at least one spectator here that is watching everything. Have someone shuffle the cards, and as they're shuffling the cards, I've got a little notepad here, and I'm just gonna write something on it real quick. What I want you to do, I'll ask someone else, I want you to think of any card in the deck, any one at all, whatever comes to mind. Okay, and I just want you to commit to that. Okay, so stick with that, whatever it is. We'll come back to this later. Set that down right there. And I'll take the cards back as they've been shuffled. And what I'm going to do very simply, and of course you have an opportunity to inspect everything, and it could be a deck of cards that is just taken down off the game shelf. That's kind of the premise of these ideas in this project here, is that this is a truly impromptu kind of a scenario. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dribble the cards, and I just want you to tell me when to stop. Okay, so go ahead, say stop right here. Now I'll give you a choice. You can go here, one more, or one less. Do you want to go here, one more, or one less? One more? Okay, one more. Here's the next card. Go ahead and take a look at that. Commit that to memory. And completely free, right? You could have stopped there. Or somewhere else, and you had opportunity to change your mind. You picked exactly what you wanted. There's no way I could know what it was from this shuffled deck of cards. What I want you to do is I want you to do nothing. I don't want you to respond in any way. I'm just going to say some things out loud, and I want you to try to be absolutely poker-faced. Okay, don't do anything. Okay. Red, black, red, black, red, 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 black. I can see very subtle movement when I say red. It looks like you, it looks like a little bit of disdain or something. Like that's not quite right. So I'm going to go with black. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 3, 3, 4, 3, 4. I think it's a 4. There's a slight turn of your head when I say 4, but not in any of the others. So it's a black 4, which means it could be a spade or it could be a club. Spade, 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 club. It's a spade. 4 of spades. Was that your card? The 4 of spades? The 4 of spades. Okay. So that's the first one. Now of course this is not, this is not that interesting because it did involve a deck of cards, and it was handled. But we have something else going on over here. At the beginning of all of this, I asked you to just think of any card in the deck. You could think of any one of the 52 cards, and I actually wrote down a piece of information. For the very first time, tell everybody here, what was the card you were thinking of? The 7 of hearts? Are you sure? 7 of hearts. Positive? 7 of hearts. So this is a concept that you can use to kind of magnify the concept of thought of card. So we've been looking at these thought of card type routines where we conflate different scenarios where cards are thought of, named, picked out of an open spread, seen in a dribble. In the middle of a shuffle, people are asked to just identify a card out of the few cards they're shuffling or whatever. Ways in which spectators are actually being made to pick something and either state it out loud or they're made to pick something from a small set. Okay, but we're hiding the idea that there are constraints on the selection so that the spectators, through this conflation of different types of selection, they get the sensation that they are freely thinking of options, right? We can use a simple mentalism gag, a simple mentalism trick, a method to heighten this considerably just by using card values as our information, right? So this is very simple. You know what's going on here. This is merely a thumb writer sort of effect, right? We're just using a thumb writer. I have a thumb writer on, and I can bring this in or bring it out whenever I need to, and I'm able to very easily scribble down a number or value, either A, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, J, Q, or K, and then either S for spades, H for hearts, C for clubs, or D for diamonds. So it's pretty simple kind of scripting, and I can do it extremely openly. I can even gesture like this with a free open hand and be very, very free and open, so long as I don't show the lead there. I can be very free and open, take the pad, and I can scribe this out right in front of the spectator, right? So what I use for this is, and I've shared this before on the channel in relation to the thumb writer, I just use a cheap drafting pencil with 2mm lead in it, and I don't sharpen it. That way, this can be written with by somebody else, and you can see it's just a very kind of stubby pencil, right? And it matches perfectly the thumb writer. So I just decided, rather than try to get this to a point and have to change the lead out, I'll just get a pencil that has 2mm lead in it and use that kind of regularly. And that's how I do the thumb writer. Now, you don't have to do it in this way. I've always liked the concept of using Post-it notes in mentalism because they're such a natural sort of paper delivery system, right? I mean, you could have billets, pieces of paper with a rubber band, that a lot of people will use that do mentalism, or business cards or something, but they seem very magician proppy, whereas just a pad of Post-it notes, while they can't be used to do all mentalism things, there is some literature on Post-it notes and mentalism that you can find, but there is quite a bit of limitation because of the sticky side of it. But given the fact that these are so common, and if you're just using them to write down information, they're very useful and very natural. You can just bring them in. You could carry a small pad like this in your pocket with your thumb writer and always be ready to go. And wherever you're at, it's as if this could have been found in the location. It could have been taken out of a kitchen drawer where, envelopes are kept or something like that. It's a very common piece of stationery. So a small pad of Post-it notes, thumb writer in the pocket. It is the ultimate universal out. It really is the ultimate universal out. You could get stuck messing everything up on almost any type of effect and use a thumb writer and a small pad of Post-it notes and get yourself out. It's just because it's a simple matter of putting the thumb writer on, taking the pad out of your pocket and saying, now I wrote something down earlier and you're not going to believe this. Show extremely empty, right? And then get to the business of writing it right there in front, peel it off, or turn it around and show. It certainly wouldn't fool magicians, but it's pretty hard to see through this. Now, some people think about thumb writing in that they feel there needs to be another layer of deception in order to make this work. In my experience, you don't necessarily need that. Does this work better if you had a peak window with a, a peak envelope with a window in the back, where you could write through the back? That's a common way to use a thumb writer. Sure, that's very deceptive because obviously the piece of paper is in an envelope, and that's another layer of deception. But is it necessary? No, not really, especially if you can show emptiness in this way and be completely free and clear. So just simply writing down, after all, the thumb writer with a mentalism pad has traditionally been used that way, where you ask someone to think of something, you write something down, you ask someone else to think of something, you write down a small list of responses and items, and then you take the pad, and one by one you have people reveal what they had as you have the pad in front of you. All the while, what you're doing is you're merely scribing out with the pencil on the table or in the ear or in the pocket out of the way, scribing out what they have claimed, right? A very simple thumb writer kind of method. So if you use this in the context of cards and you set up a premise before you do a routine of someone thinking of a card, this is an absolute deadly reveal on a truly thought of moment, right? It's only in their head. They're merely thinking about it. There's no way that it can be traced back. It sits out in the open, face down. You could use a peak envelope or something with a window in it if you needed to, if you really want to. But you could just go natural with a small pad of Post-it notes, set that out there in the open, go through your routine. I'll talk about the other thing here in a moment, which you should know already. But go through your routine and then circle back around. Now, you were thinking of something at the beginning of all of this. Show emptiness, scribe down what they say quickly, reveal it, be clean, show emptiness, that's it. So, ultimate out, beautiful way to get to the thought of card end and improve the look of everything else around it just by using a simple thumb writer sort of concept. I have some other options I'll talk to you about here in a moment related to this sort of mentalism scheme. But first, let's quickly just address this. So this is we've done this before, right, on here. I've done this trick before. This is an old trick. It's a simple peek. You're doing sort of like a heel peek. You're just peeking the back corner on the dribble. I love to apply this line of equivocate anytime I'm doing a dribble or a riffle, force, or a peek. So a peek in this sense, you peek it, but at this point you're forcing it. You're going to stick them here using some equivocate. So I've already gotten my peek. I know it's a queen of diamonds. Once I know, I want to get my eyes away from it, look away, make sure I'm not looking at it. I know what it is. I ask them, and I just gesture with both hands. Do you want to go here? One more or one less? Now just see how this feels. They might say, no, right there. Say, great, right here. Go ahead and take a look at that. Okay? And you have them glimpse the card. You could say one right here, one more or one less. They say one less. Say, okay, here's one less. Right? Here, one more or one less. How about one more? Okay, here's one more. All you have to do is repeat what they say and show them this card. And there's something about the situation that just in the moment it feels logical. This could be one more card. Could be one more. Here's one more, right? It could be right here, obviously, right here. It could also be one less, right? This is one less, really meaning one more, as in the next card, but one less from where I'm at. Kind of an interesting sort of puzzle, just to word it in that way. Would you like this spot, one more or one less? They say whatever, and then you show it. In their mind, they had an option of 3 after an open option from the dribble, right? And of course, because it is a peek, you could keep going, right? If they say, no, 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 not there, keep dribbling, right? And you could say, oh, fine, whatever. If you have a difficult spectator or whatever, and you can dribble further and get the next peek, say, now here, one more or one less, and you can offer that up. So it's a great option. I'm dropping my cards here. So that's that. And once you have the peek, then you just milk the reveal. Micro expressions, these kinds of plausible things. That's kind of what I do. I don't do the mind reading sort of thing, even though I just did this, right? I don't really claim mind reading. That's not the way I work with the people I know. They don't go for that kind of magic. But micro expression kind of stuff, that pseudo facial kind of deciphering voodoo that you see in the primetime, CSI shows, that kind of stuff. I love that stuff. People tend to really go for that. It's almost plausible, even though it's a bunch of garbage. Another option here, very quickly, just to make sure we cover all the bases with the thumb writer. Another option is to, if you have a pad of these, you can use the feature of the stick to your advantage. Because since this can stick to something, I could have this sitting on the card box. Maybe like this. And I'll slightly fold up one corner. And this would be sitting down on the table. I would take the cards out. Nobody knows that that's there. And completely remove this from the equation. No pencil at all involved. And at the very end, you say, now you were thinking of a card. I asked you to think of a card at the beginning, right? And then you can open up the box and you say, now what was the card you were thinking of? And they say something like the 3 of clubs or something like that, okay? And you say, no, that's very interesting because inside the box, I actually have a piece of paper that I kept in there. And if you take a look at this paper, you'll see that I wrote down something very, very interesting, right? 3 of clubs. So you could do that because you have this on the outside. You now have a writing surface that you can write on. And then take it out, flap side out. A lot of opportunity there, a lot of things that you can do where you can appear to take the note out of a place. Using Post-it notes, can have it affixed to something and use that sticky part to your advantage. Another option is that we'll talk about here in terms of mentalism revelations that aren't necessarily using the deck of cards, but could be used in association with card tricks where you're doing thought of card choices and reveals, is to use another mentalism standard. You could say, now we've been working with this deck, but just imagine that you have a deck of cards. Here it is in your hand. Imagine that it's there. And you have black and red. I'm going to take out a group. Why don't you remove from the cards either the number cards or the picture cards? And they say the picture cards. Say, great, well, remove those. Take those out. Take a look at those now. You're looking at the picture cards. You have jacks, queens, and kings in there. From there, I want you to remove, again, either the jacks, the queens, or the kings. And they say the kings, right? You say, great, move the kings. Now, in there, you've got black and red kings, right? Remove either the black or the red. They say the reds. Great, so you remove the red. Now, you've got the red kings there, which means you have the hearts and the diamonds. Which would you like to remove, the heart or the diamond? The king of hearts or king of diamonds? They say the king of hearts. And you say, great. Now, I just want to point out that I've been sitting here the whole time, and I only, in my pocket, you can see very, very clearly, in my pocket, I carry one card in my pocket all the time, just one. And it's always the king of hearts. Okay, so you can do this other kind of mentalism reveal where you have a truly thought of card. Now, I was using an equivocate scheme just to get to picture cards, but this is the most perfect kind of equivocate with cards where you're forcing the picture cards, and whatever they say, you can actually follow consistently with every question after in the same way that they set up the first, right? You say remove the picture cards, and if they remove the picture cards, you can then remove every other selection because you have multiple outs on all 12 picture cards and all 12 court cards. If they remove the number cards, then you go through a track of elimination. Say, remove the number cards. That leaves us with the picture cards. In the picture cards, you have jacks, queens, and kings. Which ones would you like to remove? Jacks. Okay, we'll remove the jacks. That leaves you with king and queen. Which would you like to remove? The queens. That leaves us with the king. What would you like to remove? So you can follow the same track. And it's absolutely impossible to trace this type of equivocate. Now, a magician would know what has happened, but they wouldn't necessarily be able to prove it because there's no discrepancy. Okay, so this is a good way to go, is to use an index of a simple index that you can carry around. You don't have to index all 52, but this is just a Q5 index. I've done a tutorial on the Q5. This is one that I made out of vinyl sheeting. Very, very durable, will last a lifetime, and it's the typical one that you can find in Animan, Q5 index, all 12 outs for picture cards in there. You could use another index, other indexes, and maybe use a piece of paper or a billet that has a reveal. This is the Indexpress by Vernet, which you can use. Same kind of design as a Q5. You could just put a piece of paper in there that has a revelation of a card on it. Just do the picture cards in one of these, has the same number of tabs. Or because they're smaller, you could index the full gamut in there between two of these without any trouble by sharing two outs per slot. So that's another option too. So you have thumb writers, you have indexes that you can use. These are mentalist tools that you can use surrounding thought of card routines and use it kind of to bookend the card routine. And they are truly free choices, freely thought of cards whenever you use these kinds of outs. So I'm the biggest fan of the thumb writer, right? It's the absolute universal out in any situation. You can screw up just about any trick and find some way to get out of it using a thumb writer and just a small pad of Post-it notes. So there you have it, a little bit more on some of this thinking that I've been doing on thought of card routines, kind of getting a little bit more out of the box, using alternative methods to bookend our card magic and do some pretty impossible reveals on thought of cards. So good luck with that. Happy magicking.